So thank you very much, Siva. I'm going to hand over to Siva now.
Thank you, Laura. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to meet you again after previous tech talks on how we do no-code UI using Gen 2 on Opus. Recently, we introduced AI capabilities in Opus that starts with OPUS Agents. Today, we would be taking a closer look on what are OPUS Agents, what they are capable of, and how you can develop one in Opus. So we're going to start with an exciting demo that actually gives a glimpse on Opus Agents. Let's take a step back and watch
They
this.
select an objective to create a new solution, which brings up the related tasks. When you select in the OSE, the solution designer now sees the Opus Assistant. Engaging the assistant opens its profile page with clear objectives and tasks. Engaging an objective brings up its homepage. Because a designer can manage multiple solutions called objective targets, the assistant also provides a view of all objective targets in one place. From here, they select an objective to create a new solution, which brings up the related tasks. When you select a task, you simply provide your requirements directly to the assistant. Instantly, Opus Brain analyzes what's needed and dynamically generates the perfect interface in response. And it doesn't stop there. Opus Brain continues its work, translating requirements into detailed specifications for business objects, experiences, and roles, presented clearly for your review and approval. The brain even suggests a solution name and description. You can tailor them to your vision or approve with a click, and then watch Opus generate your complete solution in moments. Next, the brain automatically creates business objects, pre-built with the right fields based on your specifications. And together with the assistant, you can refine them instantly. When it comes to designing user experiences, the brain goes even further, automatically creating network pages for your business objects. What once took drag-and-drop builders now happens seamlessly through intelligent automation. The assistant completes the solution, assigning roles and setting policies automatically, so every detail is captured. And throughout, you remain in control, navigating tasks, refining details, even switching context across solutions. Then, when you're ready, the assistant releases a fully built solution ready for action.
That's it. The brain has created the solution. Now your users can create change requests, view them, and edit them instantly.
Awesome. So what we just saw is fundamentally Opus AI in action. Well, let me put together a few things before we go further. In previous tech talks, you could have seen how we build a no-code solution and UI on Opus. You could have seen Mint and Part solutions, then how you could also build those using no-code UI, which is all quite fast. Now, what you see here is fundamentally how Opus AI enables them with agentic capabilities. Now, what we saw here is for solutions, but the same power is actually available for Mint, Quiet, and any other Opus applications. So let's take a closer look on what we just saw because it is fast. Okay, so we usually have this Gen 2 experience. When you open a tab, it starts with a network page. Now, what we are introducing new is something called an agent view and an object view. An object view is what you already had from Gen 2, and then you have the agent view. An agent view gives you the A capabilities. To use the agent view, your company needs to license Opus Agent Manager, but once you do that, everybody from the company gets agent view. Now, once you land onto the agent view in a given app or process network, you will see two things. One, an assistant in the context of the solution, and two, the agents you are managing. Now, the difference is assistant is like a power tool that helps you to do the work you want to do in the process network faster, whereas agent is like your teammate where you assign a work to them and they get to do the work and you review and approve them. So that's where you start. Once you click on an agent or assistant, you straight away get into the agent's profile. So what you see here on the top is fundamentally the agent's profile, and it says like what the agent is capable of, what it has done on the top bar. And just below that, you actually see the agent's capabilities in terms of objectives and tasks. Now, this is quite a new thing. If you have used any of the existing AI products, they are typically chat boxes where you type something and then it gives a response. But we are nonlinear enterprise work. So nonlinear enterprise work cannot happen over chat. So, and the agents has to be very specific on the work they are focused on. So this thing, which is expressed as objectives and tasks, is the way an agent is designed. Imagine you hire somebody and you give them a set of work profile and say you have to do this job. It is like that. You can define an agent in OPUS, and when you define an agent in OPUS, you actually assign them things called objectives and tasks. We're going to see how you can define them. Once you assign the objectives and tasks, anybody who interacts with the agent actually gets to see that objectives and task. So you can have an objective called analyze POs. You can have an objective called pay invoices. So you're not going to come back and type what are my POs. You already start with an outcome-centric or work-centric objective. Once you have the objective, then you get into the task. The task are steps that you have under the objective to accomplish. So fundamentally, what you just saw in those two places is number one, what we call an agentic workspace, where you can encounter your team of agents. And number two is a very unique but more user-friendly and natural way to interact and understand the agent. Now, once you engage an objective, what happens is that you get to see the agent's inner working, or you get to see, or you get to work with them. So just below the objectives and task, you see two sections like a left side and a right side, and it is kind of very clear. The left side is sequential. It says something is going on with like POs and summaries, and the right side says decisions. Now, what's going on here is that on the left side is how you work with the agent. You see what the agent has done. You can review them. You can approve them. You can ask the agent to do something. Now, on the right side is where you see how the agent is making all those decisions. Now, obviously, if you want to make a PO placed, you really want to know what happened. A purchase order is not straightforward. You will need to look at the risk, supplier risk, or the one that needs to be shipped earlier. So there are several factors, and humans look at them and make decisions around them. So the agents do so as well. We will see how they do it. So this decision flow on the right-hand side actually shows what are the decisions the agent is going through. And then under them, you can expand and you can see the thinking behind the agent on what they really thought about before making those decisions. Now, so far, we saw three things. We basically saw an agent's profile, understand what they are. Then we saw objectives and tasks, what they are capable of. And then below that, a clean way to work with them and understand them. Now let's take a closer look on that left-hand side. Now, again, I'll go back and talk about traditional chat boxes. You type in text, you'll see a text. Sometimes they will be like nicely formatted, but that's still text. Now, imagine you are working with POs. You really want to see them organized well. You may want to filter right there. You probably don't want to type a statement just to say, get me the latest POs. But sometimes if it is a complex query, you may want to type what you want. So what we do is a generative experience. We already have a no-code UI, which is fully metadata driven. We take that capability and we generate user interface on the fly. So we know what the user wants. We know what information needs to be presented. So we take all that up. We look at the agent's behavior, and then we can generate a UI using our no-code UI capabilities on the fly and in contextual and present to the user. And this is both input and output. It's not just displaying things. It can take inputs. Those inputs become actual inputs to the agent. So this is pretty new. Now, why? Because enterprise work is organized and more complex information involved. You really can't do that with a chat box. Now, that exchange, generative exchange is not just limited to text or tables or forms. It can go beyond and go to reports and dashboards. We already have no-code reports and dashboards. These no-code reports and dashboards fundamentally use our existing metadata. So like we generated the UI, we can also generate, the agent can also generate this. So imagine you come in and then say, find me all the POs which were not acknowledged. Find me all the shipments who were undersupplied. Find me all the invoices which is not straightforward to pay. So this is something you can type. And you really don't want to see a table, right? So what the agent does is that it takes this statement, it'll figure out what needs to be done, it'll collect all the data from OPUS, and then it figures out, okay, now this is a large set of data and the user wants to analyze, what do I need to do? I can't give them a table, so let me give a summary. Obviously, you'll get a human readable summary, but it also makes these charts on the fly completely generated. Like a text is generated, the chart is generated. Now, all through this process, you also get to see the decisions. So again, to recap what we just saw, you can see what the agent is, like a user, like your coworker. You can understand the agent capabilities by looking at their objectives and tasks. And then you can interact visually, contextually using the agent. Then also see what the agent thinks. So this is how you work with the agents. Now, I want to take a step in depth and then look at what we call decision flow, because this is very central to our core tenets. So when we decided to provide OPUS AI via OPUS Agents, we took a closer look on how it should behave. Now, you really don't want an agent which is taking a question, giving an answer. You want an agent to do some work. But enterprise work is all about taking multiple inputs and judging them and taking the right decisions. So enterprise work is about decisions. So we provide a means to express your agents as set of decisions. And then agents in the runtime use them to come up with the decisions and present them to the user as well. So this gives a full transparency for the humans to work with the agents, to understand what the agents do. Great. So we just saw, first we started with a quick demo. We then looked at multiple parts of that, which is the agent's profile, agent's capabilities, the way you work with agents using generative UI that involves charts and graphs, and inner depth inner look at the decisions. Now, that's how the agents work. Now, how can you put these agents to your company's use? Now, any customer of OPUS, they can license Agent Manager. Once they license Agent Manager, they get to see a profile of agents available in the catalog. So let's say that there's a procurement associate, there's an inventory analyst. These are profiles. The profiles are predefined. We'll actually look at it and see how it looks. And these profiles are appearing like in your app store, and you can see they're defined from a job perspective. So somebody from the company who wants to like create, let's say, inventory analyst for a main process network, they could go to this profile and say, create an agent. So that action creates an agent as a user in OPUS. Like you add a person to the user in OPUS, once you create an agent from the profile, it becomes a user in the OPUS system. Now, the agent users cannot be run alone. You can create multiple of them using the same profile, and you can parameterize them. Like, for example, you want some agents looking at API, some agents looking at finished product. So all this is possible or by department. Now, once you adapt your profile, you can assign human managers. Now, agents, unless you give them human managers, they wouldn't do a walk. So the human manager work with the agent. They look at the agent, they look at what they do, they approve. They don't have to be looking at it 24/7, but the human manager oversees their work. Now, human managers also has to approve the work, and the agents work in the background. They make the decisions. They say, this is what I'm going to do. Let's say you want to make a PO overnight, over weeks. It'll work on the POs, it'll create the drafts, it'll fill in the line items, it'll look for changes, it'll keep updating it, and then it'll tell you, I have this POs ready, it's time to place. And the human looks at it, they can review in detail and approves, and the PO goes. So that's how we provide agent capability in OPUS. Now, bringing all this thing together, what OPUS gives you is fundamentally an agentic workspace. It's not chatbot. You can view agent like an expert working with you in your team. You can delegate outcomes to your agent via objectives. You can review their progress by looking at what they did. You can actually look at their in-depth thinking from their decisions, and then you can influence their decisions. You can basically go in and type and say like, hey, this is not right. You want to make some changes, but I discovered something else. Now, all this capabilities, this way of working with the agent, this agentic workspace, this structured mechanism is giving you a way to understand the agent, and then giving you a way to verify the agent's work. This combination of ability to understand and verify will help you build a trust of the AI in OPUS. Now, take that and look at two extremes. On one end of the spectrum, you have chatbots and you have very less visibility, you have very less control. On the other end, you have a structured, clear way that presents the whole work in a hierarchical manner, and showing the decisions and helping you to make the actual final decision. That's how you use AI in OPUS, and that will help you to build trust with OPUS agents. Now, what we saw is an agent interaction at the beginning. Then we saw an in-depth way of the agent working. Then we also saw how you can employ agents in OPUS for your company. Now, let's come into the interesting part. So how do you define these agents? It all looks wonderful, but how complex it is to define an agent. I want to remind you all that when we built our no-code system, it was purely metadata driven, and it's no-code, meaning anybody, a business user, can design our no-code solutions and UI. In the same manner, a business user can develop an agent, but rather, I would say define. You don't have to develop. Define an agent in our platform. Now, the way you define an agent is by stating their intent, then what's their objective, and the set of tasks. You would provide those intents in a very natural way. This is exact agent definition you saw at the beginning. Then you list those objectives of the agent. Then you describe those objectives in natural language, create new solution. What is the outcome and how do you do that? Then you go and define the task. And when you define the task, you also provide decisions and rules and guardrails. And again, these are not programmatic. These are not even logical statements. These are decisions to take, rules to follow. That's it. That simple framework of decisions to take, rules to follow, simple bullet points will be used by the agent to take it. And that's where the AI and the Opus works together to get the right thing done. Now, what we just saw is how exactly you define an agent. Anybody can define an agent using natural language, using the context of their work. And the whole agent comes into life just by this definition. Okay, I'm so excited for what we showed to you all today. So we looked at agent in action. We took a closer look at the agent, and then we saw how you can employ the agent. And finally, we saw it was very easy and simple to define this agent, the agent profiles, which becomes an agent. And if you look at it, everything shares something very simple model. When you define the agent, you use a certain simple framework. And when you worked with the agent, you saw the agent in the same framework, which is objectives and tasks and decisions and rules. And that's exactly you saw everywhere. So when you define, you use natural language. When you worked with it, it was a natural way of working. And if you had any questions of how the agent worked, you can open your agent profile, look at the English description, and understand what they did. So that's it. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Laura.
Thank you, Siva. Yeah, really looks so exciting, and the capabilities that it will bring to the users and the system. It just looks, what's to come, just how it's going to enhance the capabilities and the ability of a user, what they can perform in the system. I do have a few questions, and then I'll open it up. I'll open up the line. Just firstly, how would I actually know if the agent is doing the work correctly?
Good. So the two things. One is that as we actually looked at those UI, you just don't get a response, right? The one, you see a whole exchange of what happened. So you see a record of things that happened. Then on the right-hand side, you also look at the decisions. So now there's one more thing behind the scenes. Now, if you expand those decisions, you also see the in-depth thinking. So in those in-depth thinking, you can actually look at what the agent did internally. We also keep track of what are the actual data changes they made. And if needed, we could also surface them up.
So we can audit the data and understand human versus agent work then.
Absolutely. So that comes to the key point that agents are users in our system. So today you can have users, and users' actions are audited. And we go in, we can look at what they did, what changes they made in our audit trails. In a very similar manner, agents' work is also audited. What is important is that that is associated directly to the agent. So not to the human manager, but we do know who's the human manager and what they approve, and we know like what work the agent did without human manager's direct approval. Like let's say it queried something, and then what work it did after the agent's human manager approve. So it's all available.
Okay, thanks. So I guess looking at the partner side as well, does that come across seamless to the partner? So if I use an agent, does it affect my trade partners?
So no. So when you as an owner use an agent, it's as good as what you're doing with your Gentoo experience. And agent is a capability you use, but end of the day, they work on our Opus systems, Opus apps. And the partner wouldn't know whether you used agent or not, because the work output is same. It's fundamentally how the user is managing their work.
Okay, so thank you. And then so on the flip side, with the trade partner, can trade partners also use agents and would that affect me?
That's a great question. So, what's unique about the system is that the trade partners can also license agents, but they would be restricted, meaning they can license agents and use agents in their uh, part of the world. But that's as good as imagine a partner who wants to go and acknowledge an issue. They open an object, sorry, an issue, and say like, I'm fine. I'm acknowledging this issue. They could do the same with their agents. Now, what I said about the owner user is valid for the partner user as well. End of the day, agent is an intelligent interface that sits before the user and the Opus infrastructure, Opus apps behind them. All the controls, all the visibilities, all the guardrails of that Opus app remains in place. And
Hmm.
the agent's picture doesn't change any of those things or make it worse.
So it's just enhancing the functionality or what the user would perform in the system rather than
Yes,
changing anything, changing the output.
exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you, Siva. I'm gonna just pause there and see if anyone on the line has any questions.